Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're breaking down a landmark opinion from the International Court of Justice on, you guessed it, climate change.
So the UN General Assembly went to the International Court of Justice, that's the ICJ for short, and they asked two really fundamental questions about climate change. And you know what? The court has answered. Okay, so first, a super quick refresher. The ICJ, sometimes called the World Court, is the top legal body of the UN. Now, its opinions, they carry just immense legal weight and moral authority. All right, let's dive into this.
Here's our roadmap for understanding what is, let's be honest, a pretty complex opinion. We'll look at how the court is tackling climate, the two big questions it had to answer, what this means for the most vulnerable, and whether this is a real turning point. Before we get into the court's answers, it's really crucial to understand the context. Like, why was this question even asked in the first place? You know, this moment, it's really built on decades of international efforts to get a handle on a growing crisis. We've moved from scientific warnings all the way to global treaties, and this is the next logical step.
The court's entire opinion really rests on what it calls the best available science from the IPCC, and that science establishes this as an undeniable fact. For the court, this isn't up for debate.
So the first big question that was put to the court was actually pretty straightforward. Under international law, what are states actually required to do?
And here's the exact wording. The court was asked to define the specific legal duties countries have to protect the climate for everyone, both for us now and for generations in the future. Now, what's really interesting here is how the court didn't just look at one treaty. Nope, it wove together a whole web of international law.
The court's opinion, it's built on all these different pillars. This shows that climate obligations aren't just isolated things. They're deeply embedded across the entire structure of international law.
And this slide illustrates a really key point. The court identified that 1.5 degrees Celsius target from the Paris Agreement as the central, guiding goal for what states have to do.
The court also clarifies that states have both types of obligations. They have to diligently try to prevent harm, sure, but they also have to deliver on concrete goals, like their nationally determined contributions, or NDCs.
So the crucial point here is this idea of due diligence. It's not enough to just say you're trying. Countries have to take concrete, science-based measures to actually prevent harm.
Let's move on to the second question and see how this builds. If a state breaches these obligations, what are the legal consequences?
This is really the so what part of the opinion, right? It explores the legal fallout for inaction or for actions that actively damage the climate.
The court confirms that these climate obligations are erga omnes. Now, what does that mean? It means that any state can hold another state responsible for a breach because protecting our shared climate is, it's everyone's business. So for any state that's found to be in breach, the consequences are super clear and they follow a three-step legal framework that's pretty standard in international law.
And crucially, the court didn't just talk about states, it also focused on the real-world impact on people.
This is a really vital takeaway. The legal consequences, they have to address the disproportionate harm that's faced by the most vulnerable nations, and they have to protect the rights of future generations.
So after breaking all this down, what's the ultimate significance of this advisory opinion? Is this a real turning point? Look, while it's not binding in the same way a contentious case is, this opinion clarifies the law for all countries and courts around the world. It could potentially empower a whole new wave of climate litigation and shape international policy for decades. The only question left is, who's going to use it? Thanks for watching.